Hi, my name is Marcin Żebrowski, and this is my podcast about cities, Urbcast. Hi, and welcome to the newest conversation in Urbcast. And today I will talk with Signe Helledi, who is the special consultant and Supercykelstier, which is translated into superhighways. I want to talk about the strategic cycling plan for Greater Copenhagen, but before we jump into that, I just wanted to emphasize the importance of describing what the Greater Copenhagen is, because Greater Copenhagen is not a term for Copenhagen and its surroundings, but actually Greater Copenhagen is a big collaborative organization between two countries, which is Denmark and Sweden, and especially between the Copenhagen region on the Danish side, as well as the Skåne region, which has cities like, for example, Malmö and Lund, in both of which I've been lucky to live in. So we just talk about this perspective of two different countries cooperating over one horizon region and trying to be one big organism. But I was just wondering if it's possible and if there is something like Greater Copenhagen mentality. And especially in our conversation, we focused on the strategic cycling plan for Greater Copenhagen, because it is a new plan that was created in this big collaboration. And it is showing the bigger perspective on the sustainable mobility within this big region. I think it's worth to mention that the Greater Copenhagen region is 4.5 million of citizens. So it's actually the biggest hub in Scandinavia, gathering so many people. And I think it is important to also address the strategic development of the cycling paths, and especially the ones on the larger scale. So how can we use the modes of transportation? How can we commute from one side of the bridge to the other side? So how a person living in, for example, Lund can work in Copenhagen and the other way around. How to make this connection seamless, and how can the super cycling paths help in achieving this ambitious aim in elevating and growing the region even more. I think that's enough for the introduction. And now I wanted to just invite you to listen to our conversation with Signe. That's the new episode of the podcast, and I'm very happy, Signe, that you are here with me. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Welcome to Urbcast, and thank you for agreeing on this conversation about the bicycles, but not only. We'll talk about the new report, about the new plan for Greater Copenhagen. But before that, let me just introduce you to the listeners, or maybe it will be even better if you just do it yourself. What are your current tasks, and where I guess there is some love for bicycles out there as well. Where did it come from?
Normally I work in the office for superhighways here in the capital region of Denmark. And my task is to coordinate between 30 municipalities in this capital region to make superhighways. And for the last year or so, I have been also the project manager for this strategic cycling plan for Greater Copenhagen. So yeah. And my love for bicycles, where it started, I don't know, actually, it was a kind of a coincidence. I was an intern here in the municipality of Copenhagen during my studies in the bicycle team. And then, things just happened. I was doing my thesis and people were telling me, oh, you should do something with the bicycles. And I was like, no, I don't want to be the person that only knows about bicycles. But then, 6 years later, I'm here working with superhighways, and I love it. So, yeah.
It's good that we talk, especially that when you hear or look at photos from Copenhagen, you see all the happy people biking. But it is actually a plan behind that. So there is a lot of work put into infrastructure, about education as well, I guess. So it's just interesting to talk about this backstage part of it. And today we will focus on especially the Greater Copenhagen. And for those who might not know what it means, how could we describe the term Greater Copenhagen in general?
Oh, that's a very good question. Greater Copenhagen is the eastern part of Denmark, the two regions, region of Zealand and the capital region, and the two southern part of the two regions in the southern part of Sweden, the region of Skåne and the region of Halland. And they have joined in this cooperation to make this area, or metropolis area, Greater Copenhagen, to make it a green and livable metropolis, and to create growth and development, and also to focus on labor market. So it's kind of a cooperation organization or something, you can say. Yeah.
So when you talk about Greater Copenhagen, it's actually not only Copenhagen and the surroundings, it's actually the whole region of Skåne, and it's actually international cooperation as well between Sweden and Denmark. I'm happy to have this comparison because I was living in Sweden for 3 years, including Lund and Malmö, and I was, of course, biking there as well. So maybe in this conversation that we are having, I could be this I could be having this citizen perspective, citizen of Malmö as well, and Lund, and you could maybe provide this more expert knowledge on how to do it.
That sounds nice.
on how to design the superhighways, which we will describe in a second as well. But about this Greater Copenhagen, how it is to cooperate for Denmark and Sweden, because when you talk about those two countries, you might hear some jokes that you like each other, but you have some history and you sometimes don't like each other and so on. I mean, it's a simplification, but how it is in general to have this cooperation between border?
It's difficult, I think. But, I think it started I don't know when, but because there is this labor market that go across the borders between Denmark and Sweden, across Øresund. And I think it's mainly because also a lot of people in Skåne, they look at Copenhagen and think of Copenhagen as their big city instead of Stockholm, because Stockholm is so far away and Copenhagen is very close. You have the Øresunds Bridge, so it's very easy to hop on a train and then just go to a concert in Copenhagen. So there is this coherency, or that coherency feeling, because Copenhagen is the natural center for this whole area. But I think it's still, you will always have this, you will be a Danish person and a Swedish person, and the national feeling will still be there. So maybe Greater Copenhagen mentality is more like, on the strategic and planning level than what you feel like as a citizen or an inhabitant.
Whether you like it or not, if you live somewhere in Skåne and you would like to fly to some other continent, your closest airport is the one in Copenhagen, right?
Yes,
so
exactly.
If you like it or not, you take the train to Copenhagen airport, which is very practical. I did myself while living still in Sweden, in Lund. And I need to say that it worked quite seamlessly. It was also before the pandemic, before the corona times, where it was the border check. And I heard from many people commuting cross-border that it was very annoying, but maybe let's leave this for another conversation.
Yeah.
Here, let's focus on the mobility, on the sustainable mobility and cycling as well. But do you think that if we talk about this Greater Copenhagen mentality, do you think that this is something that people might refer to and feel? Like when you ask a person living in Copenhagen or a person living in Malmö, hey, do you feel a part of Greater Copenhagen? What do you think the answer could be?
I think the short answer will be no, I don't feel like a Greater Copenhagen or the Greater Copenhagen mentality. I think the national feeling, or the feeling of living in Copenhagen or living in Malmö or in Lund is still stronger than the Greater Copenhagen mentality.
But even though you've successfully trying to cooperate cross-border under the big Greater Copenhagen initiative, and I'm very happy for that. And I'm also happy that you have this strategic thinking behind and the expertise as well, and that you also introduced the very fresh, very new plan for the strategic cycling plan for the Greater Copenhagen. And that is something that piqued my interest. When I saw it first in the internet, I thought that it's so cool that there is such an initiative, this kind of umbrella. But I guess that also it could have been a big challenge for you. So could you just share a bit more information, like some background for this plan?
It actually, I will take you a little far back, because I think the Greater Copenhagen cooperation, they have a lot of focus on strategic, important projects. For example, how can they promote the airport? How can you make a better train connection? Should there be another connection across Öresund and stuff like that? So, these mega infrastructure projects. But also then Greater Copenhagen is also, they want to be this livable green metropolis area. And a big part of this image is connected to the bicycle. And then actually the Superhighway cooperation in the capital region and also the region of Skåne, we had this very close collaboration, just knowledge exchanging, helping each other how to create this regional bicycle network. And then the board of Greater Copenhagen asked okay, we want to know how we can focus on this regional bicycle planning. What can we do? Tell us, what should we do? And then we were we don't know what to do. We have to investigate. We have to talk to a lot of people in Greater Copenhagen, what could make sense in this regional perspective. Because one thing is the commuting part, but there's also a lot of things with tourism, with the multimodal travel, and with the knowledge exchange and stuff like that. So that was the question we got from Greater Copenhagen. If we want to focus on regional cycle planning, what should we do? What would you recommend? So that was the start of the plan. And then we invited a lot of different actors to join in the different workshops and meetings and brainstorm, just to, put ideas out there and just to, get a sense of what was going on in the different topics and themes, and also how different organizations were looking at regional bicycle planning. So we did that for a year. It was supposed to be, a meeting up physically and talk to each other and a big conference and stuff. But, it was last year, in 2020. So everything was canceled and we had to figure out how to do it all online. And online the format can also do something, but it's very difficult also to, get a real connection to each other and stuff. And also the meetings were also a lot of people that didn't know each other beforehand. For example, we have this working group with all of the universities in Greater Copenhagen, and a lot of them is doing research on bicycle planning and cyclists' behavior and stuff, but they didn't know each other that well because there wasn't no network for bicycle researchers and stuff. But yeah, now they know each other, so that's very nice. And yeah, actually, this in October there was this conference, the Recycling Research Board annual meeting here in Denmark instead of in Amsterdam where it used to be. So a lot of researchers from all over the world met up here in Copenhagen and talked about bicycle research. Yeah. So a long story short, yeah, we gathered a lot of people to figure out what would make sense to work together on in this regional bicycle planning.
It's very good that you explain it in this simple way. And that's my goal with this episode and also with the podcast, to explain things that might seem to be complicated. I hope that it is not that complicated in this episode. But when we talk about the Greater Copenhagen and we talk about also working market, job market, many businesses here. And if we think about it, it's more than 4.4 million people. So when we combine Denmark and Sweden and their population, it's actually 1/3 of the whole population of those two countries. So it is a lot of possibilities and also growth in here. But how would you then develop this network? Because I can see that the plan for Greater Copenhagen and for the strategic cycling plan, it is a strategy. How would you start breaking it down and implementing? I remember I saw a diagram, I think it probably was in the plan, that there is someone living somewhere in Sweden, in Skåne, let's say, and this person has to reach the train station in some way, for example, with a bicycle. And then, for example, with the train, he or she might go to Copenhagen, where he or she, for example, works. But this whole trip might be sometimes a struggle. So how could you improve that even more? Is that also the aim of the plan?
Yeah, I think a main issue is that the the purpose of the plan is not to make the bicycle the goal or the bicycle development goal. It's more like to show how the bicycle can be a tool in different kind of regional development goals or visions and ambitions. So Greater Copenhagen has a vision or ambition to create growth in the region. So the plan is trying to describe how the bicycle can be a tool in this goal to create growth. And also Greater Copenhagen wants to have this coherent labor market with a coherent transport system. And the plan also describes how the bike can be a part of this coherent transport system and actually a very crucial part. For example, Greater Copenhagen focus a lot of this multimodal transports, the combination between train and bicycle, for example. So if you want to have a great system, then you also have to take the bicycle infrastructure very seriously. You have to think more strategic of the bike as well.
So bike becomes a tool for not only commuting, but also the growth. And since there is probably a big exchange of the commuters, of people living in one of the countries and commuting for different purposes to the other, will they have a possibility of doing it by bike? Because like now, when you would like to go from Copenhagen to Malmö, the only possibility is the train, right? But I guess that you can just take your bike with you on the train.
I think some people would like that to be a goal for the plan, that it's possible for you to take your bike with you on the train from Copenhagen to Malmö. And the conditions in Denmark and in Sweden are very different when you talk about how the bicycle and train and stuff like that. Because in Denmark, you can take your bike with you in the S trains for free, and that's not a possibility in Sweden. So there was a lot of the people we were talking with when we developed the plan, and that topic came up a lot of times. But we were thinking, I don't think that's where we are going to start. You have to start at another place or another topic. And it's a very difficult and very complex issue to make the national rules in the two different countries, to make them change so that you can easily go across the Øresund and stuff like that. So the plan is also thinking like which actors is it possible to activate? And it's in the Greater Copenhagen, it's more the regions and the municipalities and other organizations based in Greater Copenhagen. So that is also the frame for the plan. Yeah, if you understand what I mean.
Yes, I was also trying to put myself in the shoes of someone who is thinking about seamless connection between the two countries, between the Malmö and Copenhagen. And I was just, trying to see how is it possible for a person to feel a part of the Greater Copenhagen more. That's what we started our conversation with, right?
Yeah. I think maybe before you can, take your bike with you on the train, we are supposed to think more strategically. So we have to point out the bicycle connections that are important if you have a strategic view on Greater Copenhagen and a coherent transport system. And you also have to point out different hubs or train station, bus stops and stuff, where it's more important if you have a regional perspective on it, which train station should be focusing on multimodal travel or the seamless shift between the bike and the train. So I think that's more important to start there before it might be too difficult to imagine for the politicians or the decision makers, like how should we do that? So if you have a plan or a strategic network or something, I think it would be easier in the long run.
I hope that we managed to discuss the whole complex situation and the whole complex idea behind the Greater Copenhagen on this bigger level. But since you are also a part of the Supercykelstier, so the superhighway network, so to say, I would like to focus more on this right now as well. And when we talk about this cross-border connection and also in the whole region, I can't stop thinking about one big long cycling highway between Malmö and Copenhagen. Do you think it will be possible one day?
Maybe one day. But I think I will also mention that if you look at the Cycle Superhighway Corporation, the goal is not to make long cycle superhighways. The goal is to make regional cycling the third pillar in, if you look at regional transport. So you have the highways for the cars and you have trains for the public transport. And they are both either national anchored, for example, in the National Road Authority for the highways, or the public transport is regional anchored. But when you look at a bicycle infrastructure, it's a municipal matter. So all the municipalities, they have to work together to get these regional connections. And it can be kind of difficult also, like municipalities have different prioritizations. They have a different budget. And the politicians in the municipalities, they are voters, they live inside of the municipality. So why should they do something for the voters or the inhabitants or citizens in another municipality? So to have this, we need, in Denmark especially, we need this regional level when you look at bicycle infrastructure. And that's what Cycle Superhighways is all about, is the regional perspective on bicycle infrastructure.
So before there is infrastructure, before there are the superhighways, and namely the cycling routes for people to take, there needs to be this agreement on the higher level to allocate the funds to build one.
Yeah, for example, yeah. But in Greater Copenhagen, you also have another possible connection between Denmark and Sweden. If you go up north to Helsingør and Helsingborg, the Øresund is only like 7 kilometers or something. And now they are talking about, that's another long story, but they are talking about making a connection across the Øresund. And right now, I think they're talking about a tunnel, but it's only 7 kilometers. And I think the Øresundsbro is like 20 kilometers or something. So that will maybe be more attractive for a bicycle commuting route or something than Øresundsbroen.
But then also it is still not an attractive offer for someone who lives in Malmö and wants to go to Copenhagen, right? With a bike.
No, but maybe we should focus more on, multimodal travel from Copenhagen to Malmö or something. I don't know. But I think at the moment, the capital region have a cycle superhighway network. The region of Skåne is trying to get one. The region of Zealand, they don't have one yet, but they are starting to talk about it. Could be interesting to figure out how they can use bicycle in their region. And the region of Halland, they don't have it either yet. So before we think across the Øresund, we have to think in the 4 different regions.
I know that in 2019, Copenhagen was named the best cycling city, and Malmö actually came 5th.
Yes, and I think Lund also came in the top 10.
So it is a big potential out there. But how would you translate this expertise and this success within those cities onto more regional level?
And maybe you can, if you draw connection to something we wrote in the plan, to make Greater Copenhagen a cycling destination, a world-renowned cycling destination, to attract tourists and to attract companies and to attract people living here. Then if you have these 3 major cycling cities, if you have this joint effort to promote Greater Copenhagen as this big region where you can use your bike for everything, for your everyday life, when you're on vacation, stuff like that, then you have the opportunity to get the growth and the development out in the outskirts of the region as well. Because, if you think cleverly about it, then you can use the image or the reputation of Copenhagen and Malmö to get people to come, and then you can easily get them out in the region as well. So yeah, if you think more strategically on how Greater Copenhagen, with all of the region and with all of the municipality, can have this, joint promotion and marketing. Yeah, I think that will get a lot of growth to the region, or to the metropolis area, as it's also called.
We are starting to having an image what has to be changed or improved for this strategic cycle highways to appear and start attracting people. And we mentioned infrastructure, that it's maybe not the easiest part because there has to be some bigger agreement, or at least agreement between different municipalities, like different parties involved in the whole project for the infrastructure to come. But do you think that once the infrastructure is there, people would just start using the bicycle in the longer trips as well? Because there's this saying that the people, the users, the bikers follow the infrastructure. So once it's there, it's just, let's say, the matter of time that people will start to bike. And this is something that happened in Copenhagen, right? A couple of decades ago.
Yeah, some people say build it and they will come.
Yes.
But I also think a huge part of the success in Copenhagen and also on the Cycle Superhighways are promotion and communicating both to the users, but also to the politicians, that it has a positive effect when you invest in bicycle infrastructure. And then, yeah, it's a circle. So if you have a good infrastructure, people would like to bike there. And if you tell them where they could bike, or they can't bike, then they will know new infrastructure. And then they would, it's a circle, I think. So I don't think you can just build it and then expect people to find it and to use it. So communication is also a big part of it.
When I also looked at the plan for the Greater Copenhagen, I was thinking about the distances, because even though it is quite close, the whole Øresund region and the whole Greater Copenhagen region, it is kind of close, and it is connected with the Øresund bridge, which you said is about 20 kilometers.
Yeah, I think so.
But I think that still in your mind, it might feel like a very big distance, especially if you would like to, as we mentioned before, commute or go from one country to another. And if there is someone who would hear about this idea, about this plan, and he or she would live in Øresund region or in the Greater Copenhagen region, one of the obstacles for them to use these longer routes would be that the distance is very, very big. How would you encourage people to use it? Because we hear a lot about the electric bikes recently that kind of provide you with the possibilities to move around for longer distances.
Yeah.
But are there any other ideas for how to communicate, promote this idea of longer connections?
I think when you say longer connections, I think sometimes we imagine that, for example, for commuting, people have, oh my God, so they have so far from where they live to their workplace if they don't live inside of Copenhagen. But actually, numbers from something called Danmarks Statistik, I don't know what it's called in English, it shows that 50% of all Danish people that have a work, they have under 10 kilometers from where they live to where they work. And I don't think that's long. And if you have an e-bike, you can make that trip in, half an hour or something. So I'm just, asking long, what is long, and what do you, what do you mean with long distance?
The perception of distance, I think it's just different. If you live in Denmark and you are also used to using the bike, it might be not an obstacle big enough for you not to bike.
No.
So that's good that it is about about the mentality, how you approach the distance as well.
Yeah, I think actually, if you look at Denmark, now I don't know that much about Sweden, but if you look at Denmark, it seems like the bicycle is decreasing if you have on the national level. But if you look at the cycle superhighways, we have new numbers that shows if you build a cycle superhighway, you will increase the bicycle traffic with 75% or something. So that's a lot. But also we know from the cycle superhighways that the users we have, they are not concerned with the travel from A to B or the transport from A to B. They know that the bicycle is not the most time efficient if you just look at the travel time. But if you look at we call it from sunrise to sunset, then you can see that if you have an active way of transporting yourself when you commute to work, you get more time efficient because you also put myself time and exercise. So it's a double time, you can say, or something like that. So I don't think that the users on the cycle superhighways are thinking that the trips are long. They think it they are very time efficient if you look at the whole day time.
And of course, there are so many benefits of biking, but I hope that my listeners are already aware of them.
Yes, okay.
I hope at least. So I would like to ask you this final question. There are some very big milestones that you want to reach. And one of them is visualized in this roadmap, in a timeline, in the plan. And it says that in 2030, there will be 700 plus kilometers of cycle superhighways, which will be laid out in Denmark's capital region, as well as the cycling modal share rises from 16 to 19% in the region Skåne. What has to happen for you to realize this ambitious goal?
I will just start to say that these goals are, they are political goals. So they are approved by the politicians in all of the municipalities in the capital region. And also the goal of the increase in Skåne is also approved by their politicians. So we have a lot of different ways that we can reach these kind of goals. We have in the capital region, we have a network, a vision for the Cycle Superhighways network. So we know where we are going to build, but we just need funding. And that's up to the decision makers to set funds aside. In Denmark, we can see that we have 10 cycle superhighways now in the capital region, and we can see that none of them is built without funding from the state or national funding. So that's also a crucial thing, like to get some national funding. Also because when you look at the social economic gains with the focusing on bicycle or active transport, it's mostly health benefits. And that's in Denmark, for the regions and the national level, they will get the benefits. But right now, it's the municipalities that are investing in making bicycle infrastructure so that we can get more people to have this active travel. Yeah. So national funding will be very great.
So it's very needed. Let's hope that it will come as well. We are talking today in the day of the elections, the local elections and regional elections as well in Copenhagen.
Yes, it's very exciting.
And I saw some of the parties just emphasizing the need of biking as the very efficient, of course, way of moving around, and health benefits were there as well.
Yeah.
I just think that it is already very clear mindset in Denmark that you that biking is not only time effective, but it also is very beneficial for your health. So I think that this way of thinking and this awareness of the beneficial effects of bike is a big ally in developing the plan as well.
But I also think like how we see ourselves in Denmark is like we are a bike country. We know how to bike from we're young, and it's just, it's so nice, and it's just, it just happens.
Magic.
Yeah, it's just magic. Whoops. Then there was this bicycle path or route or something. And what we can see if we look at have an international perspective, we can see that a lot of different countries are moving much, much faster than Denmark is at the moment when it comes to investing in bicycle infrastructure and bicycle development. Norway, Oslo, Sweden, the Netherlands, Paris, Barcelona, London, Dublin, everyone is investing. And also Germany, oh my God, they are. There's a lot of things happening there. And also Belgium as well. They are investing much more in bicycle development and infrastructure than we do here in Denmark. So yeah, I think sometimes, I don't know what it's called in English, but we are getting maybe too comfortable. Like we have to keep investing if we want to still be a bicycle country here in Denmark, I think.
So even Denmark, maybe even Copenhagen has something to catch up with.
Exactly, yeah.
but that's good to know. There is no one perfect role model. It's about the learning process as well and investment as well. I guess that some political, and not only political, but the will is also an important ingredient of this success. And I'm very happy that we summarized this in this way.
Yeah.
This, I would say, yet still positive note. And as a last thing, I just would like to ask you for a book recommendation. Maybe there is something related to cycling, but not necessarily.
I thought a lot about that questions, and I'm not the best person to ask to book recommendations. I hear a lot of different podcasts, but I will recommend people to read the plan, the strategic cycling plan for Greater Copenhagen. It's very interesting. Yeah, so I don't have any book recommendation.
That's very fair. And I will add the link to the plan in the description of the episode. And I just would like to thank you very much, Signe, for our conversation.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you very much for listening to our conversation. And I hope that you enjoyed listening to different interesting bits of being a part of this Greater Copenhagen, which might mean both living in Denmark or in Sweden, but still creating this greater good, this greater region in which you are trying to prosper and build the wealth of the whole region. I'm very happy to have this conversation because I've been actually living in three of the biggest cities within this region. I've been living in Lund when I was studying my master degree. I was living in Malmö, and now I'm living in Copenhagen. So it was very funny to talk about it and to see how it changes, how it shifts with the change of the city as well, and with the change of culture, and then eventually the country as well. But yes, I hope that we encouraged you to see the strategic cycling plan for Greater Copenhagen. And of course, I'm adding the link into the description so you can make yourself familiar with that interesting document. Thank you very much for listening and hope to talk to you soon.